Dinner and a Book is supported by the Rex and Alice A. Martin Foundation of Elkhart, celebrating the spirit of Alice Martin and her love of good food and good friends.
Hidden in the depths of 18th century London, a secret apothecary shop caters to women. The owner, Nella, sells well-disguised poisons to be used against oppressive men. 200 years later, Caroline Parswell discovers an antique vial in the River Thames during her first stay in London. Carolyn discovers a link between the vial and London's long unsolved apothecary murders in Sarah Penner's The Lost Apothecary. Let's welcome my guest, Chancellor of Indiana University South Bend, Susan Elrod. Welcome.
I'm glad to be here, excited to talk about this book and cook some great food.
Yes, some food from, 18th century London?
I think I would say inspired by food.
Inspired.
And inspired by food that delivered the poisons.
Yes, exactly. And this is quite an interesting story that we don't read about so much today, but we'll get to that. So tell me, what are you going to be making today?
Well, today I'm going to be making some rosemary cookies, or biscuits as they would call them in Britain, from a recipe in the back of the book.
Okay.
And also Welsh rarebit, inspired by the cheese and bread that Nella and her assistant Eliza enjoy after they go beetle hunting, which we'll talk about probably.
Yes, that's an exciting, important part. Well, and I'm going to be making some creamy mushroom soup, still a bestseller for those hoping to poison someone. But I will not use the death cap mushroom in my soup today. So let's get this sort of settled here. These two women, 200 years apart. First, let's talk about Nella and Eliza. Where are they and what are they doing with their life?
So Nella is the apothecary,
Yes.
who grew up learning about how to be an apothecary from her own mother, who died, and so she has those skills and has an event that occurs in her own life which causes her to shift her focus from dispensing healing tinctures and balms to these well-disguised poison.
Yes, and she makes a vow to herself. She will only help women poison men.
She will only dispense the poisons if they are going to kill a man.
Yes.
And Eliza is her young, unanticipated assistant.
She's 12 years old.
12 years old, who comes from a situation where there was a betrayal
Yes.
to her, just like Eliza and her life experience, and Carolyn.
And Carolyn, the modern American who comes to London, she was supposed to have come with her husband to celebrate their 10th year anniversary. Shortly before they leave, she discovers, lo and behold, James, her husband, is having an affair. And so she says he can't come on the trip. She's going alone. The setting for the development of Carolyn in London. It really is a fast-paced change of life, isn't it?
Right.
It takes place. So here's the setting, and we hear about, the types of potions that are used, and of course this happened quite frequently, quite often, until about the time when the doctors could determine what the person died from. And if it was poison, they could determine that, and they could find out, who might have done it. Today, you don't read that somebody died of poisoning unless it's a special case. You hear about a pet dying, but it's not something that you hear about so much. There was the arsenic and strychnine, and you are always very careful with if you're going to use those ingredients. So let's get started on our first step here. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about what Carolyn does in London on her own, her first trip alone, right?
Right.
So I'm going to get started with my mushroom soup. I'm going to cook the mushrooms in some nice butter, and then I'm going to make the cream soup and add some sherry. And that will be my soup today. And you're going to start with your cookies. You're going to
Yes.
give a lesson on how to chop rosemary.
I am going to do that. So these cookies start with a base of butter and sugar, like most good cookie recipes, I suppose.
Yeah.
And the key ingredient is fresh rosemary. And so I have some 2 sprigs of fresh rosemary here. You want me to go ahead and start chopping?
Sure, go right ahead.
So what you do here is you need to remove the leaves of the rosemary. We don't want to chop up the stem because maybe that has some flavor. I don't know, but it's certainly
It's kind of tough, isn't
tough.
it?
Yeah, right. So the leaves are more tender, and so I'm just going to peel off the leaves of the rosemary stem here. And you know, if you grow rosemary in your garden, you have a ready supply of rosemary to make these cookies. I also think these cookies would be good with lavender.
Oh, yes. I've had
And
lavender cookies.
I actually modified the recipe like I do many times. I almost never leave a recipe untouched. And I added a little cardamom. So
I love cardamom.
and
It's a secret ingredient.
it is a secret special ingredient.
While you're doing that, I am kind of wiping off these mushrooms because you know they love to carry dirt with them, and I
Yes.
never quite understand why we can't dip them or spray them in some water. I guess there would be too much moisture in them, but in any case, these are safe, unlike the ones that my father-in-law, who, bless his memory, picked in our backyard, made mushroom soup. It ended up in the hospital.
Oh my gosh.
Hallucinating, and guess what they served him? Cream of mushroom soup, which we thought was quite an interesting.
In the hospital they served
Yes,
him.
that was so interesting. I'm going to be making a cream sauce. I'm going to add a little of this, and I've got to be sure I don't overcook all this buttery stuff. Now tell us, you've got your rosemary
I have the
ready.
rosemary. So if you're okay, I'm going to cream the butter and sugar together.
Oh, go right ahead.
I'm going to make a little noise.
It's a lovely mix master here.
You know, this has a light so you can make your cookies in the dark.
You could cook in the
Not
closet.
that you would do that, but it actually helps you see in the dish. So I'm just going to cream the butter and sugar together. This is a really simple cookie recipe. So I'm creaming the butter and sugar. I'm going to add, I have just about, it's at a half a tablespoon of rosemary, but I don't know, that's somewhere between a half and a full.
That's great.
And then I'm going to mix that in. And then next I'm going to add my pre-measured sugar, or flour, sorry. So I'm going to add,
And while you're doing that, I'm adding the flour to the butter, melted butter. Then I'll add some milk and some cream. And we're cooking the mushrooms. And then we'll put it together. And, oh, nice. All right, let's see here. Let's see if I can burn all the butter here.
so you just mix this together until it starts to form a dough. And then I always get as much dough off the mixers. And then if you have a little one around, you can hand them. My mom used to always hand me the
Oh, yes.
the mixer.
You're supposed to clean them up,
and
aren't you?
I clean them up.
That was the
That
best
was
part.
Always fun. So then the next part for the cookies
Yes, go right
is
ahead.
I have these great cookie scoops, so of different sizes. This is the smaller one. I'm never very good at keeping all my cookies the same size, so this helps
Oh.
me with that.
That's a good idea, yes. And I'm watching that I don't burn this wonderful butter, and I'm using half and a half with a little milk. And so I'll add the cooked mushrooms.
So I'm just going to demonstrate here. So I'm going to scoop these cookies out, and then I won't do the whole tray at the moment. And then you can use a glass, or I just use my fingers. I've washed my hands, of course. Pat them down, maybe shape them up. They stay about the same shape when they're done. So then you would just fill up the cookie tray and refrigerate the cookies for about an hour before they are baked at 375 for about 10 minutes.
And that's what you're going to do right now, right?
Yes. I'll finish my cookie tray.
And I'm adding my mushrooms now to this cream sauce. Strictly full cream in
Smells so
this.
good.
Everything smells good here, doesn't it? I'm going to add a little sherry. And sometimes people add hazelnuts to this, or you can add anything that you think would make it special. And we're going to let that cook a little bit. And we're going to take a little break here. And I just want you to take a look at some scenes of 18th century London and look at the town and see what's going on. Maybe we'll even find an apothecary store. We'll be right back. And our book is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. My guest is Chancellor Susan Elrod. So glad to have you here.
Happy to be here.
Lots of energy. Thanks for suggesting this book, by the way. There's a lot of in and outs happening here in this book. This second part, we're going to talk about Carolyn and her husband, James, and what actually happens in this situation. So she's in her hotel. What does she find out is going to happen?
Well, she's in her hotel without her husband. She's feeling betrayed and maybe angry. And so she goes out into London because she's on her own. And so she's on her way to a pub, I believe, or on her way from a pub, one of the two.
Blackfriar area?
Yes. And she runs across a gentleman who invites her to go mudlarking.
Mudlarking, a new sport.
And she had read about mudlarking because when she was in college, she read 18th century
She liked that
British
period.
novels, like that period. And so she had read about it, but she'd never actually experienced, and she was doubtful.
Right. Well, she was tired too. She wasn't sure she wanted to do mudlarking in the Thames, but she finds a little vial in the water.
A little blue vial.
Blue vial, and she takes it with her, and the fellow leading it just said, oh, you know, there are a lot of those, or there are a lot of this or that. And they talk about it, and Alf is a side character in the book, along with his daughter, Gaynor, who works in the museum.
The British Library, I think.
Yes. And so she gets involved with Carolyn, and they become super friends. And this thing gets very complicated because Gaynor runs into mysterious happenings in the area of London that have this very same apothecary shop, and we can't believe how complicated this becomes. And we go back and forth to the 1700s to modern day London, but, well, who comes to visit Carolyn? I sound
husband
like
shows up.
Yay!
Unannounced.
Yes.
So that's
he's
a new
feeling
twist.
like he's a real, the French say a chameau, a real cad, and he tries to get back in her good graces.
Right.
And after 2 days in London, she becomes an independent woman, right?
And we learn that she wanted to apply to graduate school in Cambridge, but her husband, she got married, she started working on the family farm, so her life became predictable and
Yes.
uninteresting.
He's
to
too
her
busy.
now.
busy man, and she's
busy man.
doing the books for her in-laws
Right.
at the farm, or maybe it was her
It was
parents.
her parents, I believe, her family farm.
And right then and there, I would have said, "Oh, kill me now." But she,
So she discovers this researcher in herself
yes,
when she's free to explore. And so her husband shows up, and she's not all that happy
not excited.
about him showing up unannounced.
it's sort of unusual for her to, "Oh, he's here. Everything's going to be fine." She says, "Well, wait a minute.
She's not so sure about that.
I don't know about you. After all, I've had a little bit of freedom here these 24 hours since I left you, and of course, this is keeps the energy of the book going, and so." When we talk about these two stories, they get pretty complicated, a lot of details, and I kept forgetting all the details, but she reads about this Nella, well, she finds
The
out
apothecary.
the apothecary, and she goes into mysterious dark places in London and finds the apothecary shop.
Which has been untouched for
200
years,
years.
amazingly.
Amazing, yes, amazingly.
But the shop was well hidden even back in the in
Right.
1791.
Because she's almost arrested. They run after her when they find out she's the woman making these poisonous potions back in the 1700s.
Yeah.
So we've got these two stories, and I even found the language changed a little bit in the structure. The structure for the English part was a little bit more, what shall I say, antique and a little bit more formal, there's the word,
Yeah.
as the British can be, you know. And then we get back to the Americans, and of course a little bit looser. And so her husband comes, and he doesn't feel good. Why doesn't he feel good? Has he taken?
I think he gets a, well, we're never really sure exactly what happens with him, but he ends up drinking instead of rubbing on his throat eucalyptus oil. So he ends up in the hospital.
in the hospital, and the police come, and they see this little booklet that a notebook that Caroline has been writing in about
All these different poisons and the
Poison-
apothecary and all these.
So you see,
things.
all of a sudden they're making conclusions. She must have done this to him, and they they want to arrest her. And then the librarian comes at the right time and saves her.
Right, says no, she's really doing a research project. And then the husband, of course, admits, and we're not really sure whether he drank the eucalyptus oil to try to win her back as a, like, oh, poor me, come on.
I think he did.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right. And she says, "But you drank it, and I was in trouble because of that." Well,
Didn't you read the bottle?
yeah, didn't you read the bottle? Don't you know what I'm doing here? Well, in any case, he goes back to the United States, and she, of course, she's loving the people she's meeting. She particularly likes Gaynor, the woman
Right.
in the library, and they hit it off, which is sort of an interesting thing, too, because Europeans don't jump into a relationship right away.
Yeah.
I mean, they take a little time, they kind of look at
Right.
you, but Gaynor and Carolyn hit it
Hit
off.
it off, I think, because of the research project, and it
Yes.
was interesting to Gaynor as well.
Yes, so
So-
we have this going on. Meanwhile, Nella's poisoning men. Well, she's with the help of Eliza.
I'm going to start my
I
Welsh
think that's
rarebit
an
here.
excellent idea.
We're having so much fun talking about the book.
Yes.
So we'll get back to the poisonings. So I'm going to make a Welsh rarebit, which is not rabbit. It's just cheese.
No rabbit in this.
And basically, it is. It starts with a roux, and if you know what a roux is, it's butter and flour normally with milk or cream. But this Welsh rarebit roux is made with beer. So I have an ale here, Spotted Cow Ale from the state of Wisconsin, where I used to live. And this is brewed by the New Glarus Brewery, and you can only purchase it in the state of Wisconsin.
So
If you're driving through Wisconsin,
truck drive,
convenience stores, gas stations, liquor
Pick up
stores,
a bottle.
anywhere, you can get that. So I have my butter, a tablespoon of butter, and a tablespoon of flour I'm going to mix in. And a good roux starts with equal proportions of both.
yes.
So I'm going to just get that mixed up.
We have a lot of cream sauce today.
And then I'm going to add the beer like you would add the cream.
That's a nice gadget too. There you have
Oh, my little, yeah.
your measure
And then I'm going to add, this is a grated double Gloucester cheese. So I tried to find a cheese that would be reminiscent of the time. So this roux is just thickening up a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is add, and you can add as much cheese or as little cheese as you want.
Do you want it thick or do you want it
You want it kind of thick because we're going to put it on toasted bread and then broil it.
broil it? Yes.
So I'm melting the cheese, and many recipes call for horseradish or mustard. All of them call for Worcestershire sauce.
And
So I'm
there
going
it
to add a
is.
little bit of that, and you can add as much of that as you want or not.
This is starting to smell good.
So I'm just going to keep stirring this till the cheese melts, and then we'll place it on toasted bread. So I have some toasted bread here, and then we're going to broil
Isn't
this,
this
and then
great?
that's the end of Welsh rarebit.
Yes, and is it still a popular dish? It probably is. In
You know,
bars, maybe. In
I mentioned this to a
inns.
friend, and she said, "Oh yeah, Welsh rarebit," just like it was a part of her regular household
There you go. Okay.
meal rotation. So,
It smells good. It's nice and thick.
yep.
And my soup is nice and thick, and it smells a little bit of sherry.
And this cheese has some onions and herbs in it, so I didn't add horseradish. But you can just use a hard, like Gruyere. You can use actually any hard cheese that you would want.
Yeah,
So this is about melted,
looks good.
and
So you're going to spread this on the toast.
so I'm going to turn that.
The
off.
reason she's getting so much done, you did a lot of preparation
Yeah.
ahead of time. We don't want you to sit and watch us toast bread, you know. So,
Well,
so
I'm
you
a
want?
scientist too, so this is just like carrying out a protocol in the laboratory.
I see. Well, you know, recipes are a mixture of ingredients.
Yep.
So here we go.
So I'm going to go and I'm just going to spread. You might normally let this set up a little bit, but you can just scoop it on.
Oh, yeah.
the bread?
This is great. And you know what? It's tasty. And everybody has some cheese and toast in bread in the house.
Well,
That
and-
makes a nice dinner.
Who doesn't love cheese? And you could, you probably could try this if you're lactose intolerant with a,
Well, I am,
You know.
so I would try it
okay, there you go, with some kind of dairy,
with dairy cheese, a non-dairy cheese.
non-dairy cheese.
Okay, and
All
now
right.
how long are you going to broil this?
They just broil for a couple of minutes.
Okay, put it in.
I'll put them in.
I'll open
I mean,
it
you
up.
kind of watch it so that it doesn't.
Okay, and we're going to take another little break to set up our table and prepare our food to present to you. And I just wanted you to see my apron that said the secret ingredient. And I don't think I've used anything that's too secret. I think I've been
You've been pretty upfront.
I've been up front here. I
Unless
haven't
you put a
added-
poison in there.
I haven't yet. Okay, we'll be right back, and in the meantime, we'll show you the menu. Thanks. And today, Susan Elrod from IU South Bend is with me, and we've been discussing The Lost Apothecary. And I loved the book. And tell us what you made here. You really got
So,
into this.
I really did. I made Welsh rarebit inspired by the cheese and bread that Nella and her assistant Eliza eat after they collect the poisonous beetles that they use to dry them out, bake them, and grind them up to make a poisonous powder.
Yes.
That is administered through a fig liqueur. So I couldn't easily get my hands on that, but we have a lovely port
Let's
here.
have a little sip. But we didn't get very
Cheers.
many of the beetles in here, did
No,
we?
we got no beetles in this.
Oh, that's nice. So,
From Creek Bend down in Bloomington.
right.
And then I made some rosemary cookies, recipe in the back of the book, with a little bit of cardamom.
And it smells wonderful. And I made some homemade mushroom soup with a little bit of sherry in it. And I just want to talk about your favorite part in this book. What did you like the best?
Well, I'm a scientist, and so I really loved the whole part of the apothecary shop, how she put the tinctures and other things together. One part she was delivering rat poison essentially in eggs.
Yes.
And so she had to help the person who was going to deliver the poison understand everything. And then the collecting of the beetles and creating the poison from
yes,
that. I
it's
thought those
mashing
were
them,
so interesting.
drying them out. It's very complicated, but very efficient, isn't it?
It seemed to work.
It worked many times. So we're so glad you joined us today, and thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to have you, and I liked your book choice. And we want to leave you with the idea that good food, good friends, good books, good drinks make for a very good life. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
This WNIT local production has been made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Dinner and a Book is supported by the Rex and Alice A. Martin Foundation of Elkhart, celebrating the spirit of Alice Martin and her love of good food and good friends.